And welcome back. We're basically doing an after-action report here at the end of this Medusa World's run. So this is basically the state where we left off. I've gone over and we're basically looking at the city overview. So if you're wondering how the city stacked up at the end of the run, Hansen, which was effectively after the nuclear strikes or the atomic strikes on the three main cities, was the biggest city we had. And I suspect at this point is probably still the biggest city on the planet. Belrod is, of our three main cities, the only one to be struck once, which is why it's falling behind Hansen. Ergstone, probably because it's our capital, has actually done the most recovering out of the ones that got triple tapped. Austerlitz was first one to get triple tapped, and probably because of all the recovery Ergstone's been doing, hasn't been recovering necessarily as much as it could have. China tributary here had the slave market, which was helping us try to drive its population up. And then China and Bell are basically our two colony cities, so they never really had any population to start with, and it was just us throwing population at them. So we look through a little bit of the stats. So you can see troop count going up. And near the end, we're actually this green one here. So at the end, we didn't actually have the highest troops, and I suspect we were having troops starve near the end. I thought we were getting enough food through to them that we were minimizing starvation, but apparently not enough to completely stop starvation. So we'd as the bronze on the podium, had actually dropped to bronze. But there was a while in here where our troop count was bigger than Decel Rex. And that was after most of the game being basically behind the front runners. And you can see, this is mostly infantry to be fair, but we can see that Bromburn did pretty outclass everyone in military. And we can see the decline of... In fact, I think that's actually our ally there. That's not Decel Reich. That's declining there. So our ally was actually in sort of second military-wise, and then began to collapse due to probably a two-front war between Decel Reich and Bonbund. So that is the troop statistic page. And we can see all the different types of troops. I'm not going to click on each and every one of them. But yeah, we can go and look like infantry class. Again, most of that was infantry. And in fact, from a gun standpoint, you can see Decel Reich didn't necessarily have very many guns. Or not Decel Reich, Bronberg didn't have very many guns. And to be fair, I didn't have very many guns either, right? So most of my guns were the artillery pieces attached to the grenadier units. So at most I had like 13 grenadier units. Let's say. I feel like I was running, and this is the high altitude aircraft. I don't think I ever actually ran any high altitude aircraft. Most of mine were low altitude. And in fact, near the end, because of them exchanging atomic strikes with each other, I had the most high altitude or low altitude aircraft at the end. And then tanks. Most of the time, my tanks are staying pretty stable. And I had some walkers. I forget the militia had walkers, right? Oh, okay. So it looks like the militia walkers don't count as walkers, apparently. Yeah. Regime statistic. Okay, so we can see zone population here. Looking at it, and I'm a little bit confused because it's saying a lot of them are zeros that I don't think should be zeros. Oh, I think it's only giving me the information that we're seeing via spies, so it's inaccurate at the beginning. So we can see our population going up, mostly going up. And then we have a big cliff here when we start getting struck. Crash down, come back up, and so on and so forth. I think if I get it graphed in the Excel sheet, this will look better in the Excel sheet. We just looked at troops, basically. Oh, technically this is my troops based on... Oh, and this is my cities, right? So we can see Ergstone, the capital, it's going up, gets struck, recovers, gets struck, recovers, gets really struck, and then starts recovering at the end. Austerlitz, which was our second city, is actually the first one to get atomic struck. It gets a little bit confusing in here because this is where we have both Belrod and the capital get struck. In which case, Belrod never gets struck again, right? So Belrod starts coming up and coming up and coming up. That was around about the time where we got Hansen. And Hansen never really got struck. This decline is actually volunteer drafting. We had a bunch of volunteer drafting back to back to back to build up the army. And then interestingly is actually this Belrod decline in here, which apparently correlates with probably the logistics collapsing a little bit, and us trying to pull population off of it to feed the other cities. Though it does recover enough to be in the second place. And it's really hard to see the bell down here and China tributary. But they're invisible in there. So we're only seeing our regime statistics here. We don't see the other ones. And then here's the casualties. So you can see some of the turns where things really went bad. Near the end. Basically, when we were in hot war with them, it's like 17,000. A lot of that's militia, but that's still 17,000 dying, 15,000 dying, 14,000 dying. So yeah, that's probably the worst. But yeah, we got some bad turns in there where troops were dying left, right, and center. And near the end, we were reaching the point where we were starting to sell things just to keep the budget balance. So we crashed most of the prices in our nation. Inventory was looking pretty good until major damage to the capital. And we have some military stats in here, so you can see average morale, average experience. So near the end, the average experience was pretty high. The percentage of troops that was militia. Here, at some point, it was like, okay, I need to get that down, so I'm trying to drive it down. This jump here is getting Hansen. So Hansen came with a lot of militia. But at some point, we were between losing them and trying to replace them. We did get down to like 27%. In average hunger. So that was the first logistical collapse around the nuking of the 3 major cities. Apparently we had a jump up when we were under the current collapse. And we were starting to recover. So had we been able to keep it together, we probably would have been able to get troops functioning again. Comparative victory score is a public stat, so we can see it. Okay, so I think it's time to bring up the Excel sheet if I can. Get it to show up. It's a little bit interesting on how I gotta do this, because got to put the Excel sheet. Well, I suppose at this point I could put the Excel sheet over on my left screen and it would work fine. Oops. Let's see, can I stretch it a little bit more vertically? Yeah, okay. So one of the things I generated on the Excel sheet was basically each of the turns up here. This is the end of the first turn, end of the first stream, end of the second stream, third stream, fourth stream, fifth stream. As the game goes on and the end turns take longer, these get closer and closer together. But this is basically the end turn for all the streams. I drag it a little bit to the left. which country is associated with, right? So we can see that actually early on, Dessau Reich apparently had the most population. Why they started off with more population than everyone else, I don't know, but they did. They started off with about twice as much population. Well, in fact, quadruple the population of almost everyone else. With the exception of Brunbund and Steel. Why they had more people? I don't know. The game said at the end of the first turn they had more people. Well, no, actually the end of the first stream. First turn they're all pretty similar, but we can still see Desselreich has the most people, Braunburn has the next most. Don't know exactly why that is. And then we all basically start off probably with our first 8 hexes. 7 hexes. And if this is the end of the first turn, I don't know if this auto updates the end of the first turn, so I don't think it does. So this is basically the statistics. You can sort of see. I haven't graphed this yet. We could take a little bit of time and try to graph this. Worked out pop percentages, worked out planet percentages. And then I know what my population is at the end of each of these turns. So using my population, I've worked out what their population in theory was. And via that, I actually worked out what the total planetary population is. And what the regular trend was over the episode, right? So the first stream, population was growing, right? The population of the planet nearly doubled over the first stream. Over 33 turns, population of the planet doubles. Growing at about 43,000 pops a turn. 43,000 people a turn. Slowed down a little bit for the second stream, but was basically sitting in the realm of 40,000 a turn for most of the game. Slightly, other than the first stream, where it was not really high. It's slowly going up. And you got the odd stream where it's a bit low. I suspect there's some effect going on that actually makes it a bit spiky, which is why the particularly short stream of I here is probably lower than it is. And then you'll notice it suddenly goes negative. So I believe this, and we can see it in our population, right? That was the stream after I think I get nuked. So this stream was the one we got nuked. Hence the sudden population decline. So I think what ends up happening at this point is Braunbund, and that was the stream also where we got struck 3 times, and twice in 1 turn. So at this point in the game, Braunbund, I believe, has 2 launchers. And they start using them. And this causes the population growth to go from sort of positive, right? So we can mark all this in green. Mark all this in green. Do a green, light green fill. Right, so we're green in that regime. 2. And then it goes red because the population starts dying from repeated atomic strikes. Now let me get a lighter red if I can. We'll go orange. And then around this stream, don't remember what stream that was, but as we were approaching like 190, 200 turns in, suddenly the population starts growing again. It's not really growing very fast, like comparison to the beginning game where we're in the 40,000 growths. It's only growing like 4,000 a turn. But what I think has happened is we know at the end of the game, Brunbund back here, when we got double nuked, has 2 launchers. End of the game, they only have 1. And at the end of the game, the one they had at the end of the game was doing more radiation delivery than the double strike. So when we got hit twice. So what I think happens is around about here, so somewhere between 188 and 200. It might have actually been a little bit before 188. That might be why this number is smaller. I believe Dessau Reich gets their own atomic weapons. And in the barrage going back and forth between the two of them, hits both of Braunburn's launchers. So both the original launchers get destroyed. And that's why we get one stream where the population on the planet's actually growing. Is Braunbund has lost all their launchers. And we know that Bronburn and Desselreich were exchanging atomic strikes because both of them have radiation damage. And the AI is not particularly great at cleaning it up. So we can basically see the history of atomic strikes going back and forth. So we get this sort of green turn here, or green stream here, where population on the planet's actually going up. It's not going up real fast, but then what I think happens is, and you can also see this sort of in the population, right? So Bronburn's population, well, actually, you can see this in Desselreich's population a little bit better. Desselreich's population grows to its biggest over this period, where we actually see Bronburn's population shortly in here actually decline a bit. So I think Bronburn gets hit quite a bit by Desselreich. Eventually, they catch Desselreich's or Bronburn's atomic weapons, ICBMs, forcing Bronburn to rebuild them. And by rebuild them, I mean rebuild the one. They have one launcher at the end. But I think it's a bigger megaton weapon. I think it's like a 50 megaton weapon or something. And then what ends up happening is we know at the end of the game that Desselreich doesn't have one. So we know Bronburn was getting nukes, and we know Desselreich probably had some atomic strike capacity. And we know Bronburn gets their weapon back. And gets Desselreich's weapon with it. And then Bronburn, because they have more territory, presumably solves their radio access problem and just starts being able to do it over and over and over again. And this is where we see situations like Austerlitz. So this is Austerlitz here. So this is why the population in this stream, that 6 turns, goes down. It's actually because we're getting struck. A lot of the planetary population being lost is actually ours at this point during that turn. But yeah, you can see the population goes down pretty heavily during the last couple turns. So at this point, Bronbun basically works out the capacity to basically launch that one launcher. They only have one launcher at this point, but they basically figure out how to get it to launch every turn. And this just drives down the population across the planet. Where at the end of the game, we're population-wise, we're back before where we were in turn 100. So you can sort of see the rise and fall of the planetary population here. And granted, at the end of the game, there's still more people than there were at the beginning of the game, right? So it's around, probably around turn 90 at this point, when the population hit that point. So from the atomic strikes over and over and over and over and over again, basically blew away 140 turns of population growth. So that's how devastating the atomic weapons can be. And basically how Bronburn actually ended up winning, is basically they managed to leverage the atomic strike capacity into their victory. So let's see if I can try to get some graphs going. See how things go over time. Scanner will probably work best. Okay, so that's faction population per stream, basically going on there. Obviously, I need to fix the axis here. So select data. So how can I tell you that you're the X? Okay, I know how I need to do this. So remove that column. No absolute pops. So this is basically planetary population for each faction. Over each of the streams, right? So we can see, yeah, everyone's going up. I didn't do that right. No, because I still have factions. I still have a data set in there that's not supposed to be in there. Move to that one. Okay, so those are the six majors. How the population changes over time. You can see steel is probably the first to die, so they go up and they come down. And you can sort of track population over time. And you can see at the end that we are the 3rd most populous nation. And we're actually vaguely keeping between 50,000, oh no, between 500,000 and 100,000 population the entire time. Whereas the number 2 and the number 3, and the number 1 and the number 2 end up getting much bigger than that. And that's probably why they end up going on to be where they are, right? Probably the most interesting thing, and this is why it wasn't necessarily assuming that we, or presuming that we could potentially come back from this, is around about here in Stream 13. These guys were running roughly neck and neck. And then VP, yes, Braunburn was in the lead, but that's because Braunburn had more of the planet, not necessarily more people. Once they started taking more people, that's how they pulled off into the win. Okay, let's see if I can actually fix the x-axis on this chart. So, your x-axis should be those numbers. And then your x-axis should be those numbers. Oh, not what I wanted. Your x-axis should be those numbers. Accidentally changed the name. There we go. Fix the name. So it's not. Let me fix the. You can sort of see how population is going over time, right? So, it's not necessarily because the later streams are closer together, right? So the density of the data is a little bit better in those ones. Point-wise. Okay. So with that, you can sort of see, not in the terms of how many streams where everyone was looking, but in the terms of actual time, right? So, general planetary population is going up. But you can definitely see that the way that Braunburn sort of gets into the lead is by blowing the population off of Dessel Reich. And that actually, our population, what, it would have been around about here, 165, yeah, that's where we got atomic striked, right? So we were doing a pretty decent job of not dying from the atomic strikes, much better than the two AIs, right, that died. But we weren't doing enough to really come back into it. That's how that was working out. I don't know if I can get it to do this set really nice quickly. Let's see if I can do that. Oop, that's not right. Okay, so I got to do the x-axis correctly there, but the labels are wrong. The labels are pretty easy. It's the same label set as down here, so it should hopefully be conveyed enough. Where you can see VP. In many ways, our VP was actually doing a better job of holding up, right? So we had managed past about 165. We were sitting around, consistently around 20% VP. And in that range, right, we were hoping, hey, if we can get these guys to stall each other long enough, we can get our stuff together and try to overtake one of them. What ends up happening is that Braunburn, which is the red one, the Series 2, does finally start to break Dessel Reich, which causes Dessel Reich to go in decline and then to go into ascension. And that's how we end up in losing state. And yeah, I was kind of hoping that in the long run, I was sort of in-game, was hoping that Dessel Reich would hold on. If anything, I was actually hoping, because Dessel Reich started to catch back up, that Dessel Reich might actually pull ahead. Because that was also the fear I had, was that Dessel Reich would start pulling ahead, because we were having the ability to go to Cold War with Dessel Reich. Or to blackmailing state with the Dessel Reich. We weren't able to do that with Braunburn, so we're having to constantly be worried about Braunburn declaring on us. But yeah, so that's the sort of after-action statistics I was thinking about in this game. So, from an after-action standpoint, I hope you've been enjoying that. I think I've yammered on enough. But yeah, you can see, and this is one of the things I was very interested in, was what was happening with all those atomic strikes to the world population. The answer is the world population was going down, and it was going down in some serious numbers, right? Population decline near the end of the game was almost twice what it was growth-wise at the beginning of the game. So that's just the devastation that atomic weapons could wield. Is that we're losing, in addition to wiping out all the planetary growth, losing enough people that we're still losing twice as much in addition, population-wise, on the whole planet. So we actually peaked, what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So about 8 streams into the game was where population peaked. So we probably peaked in population between turns 155 and 165. And then from that point forward, the atomic weapons just drove us back down below where we were 100 turns into the game. So back on the 3rd, 4th stream. So that's just the devastation the atomic weapons can wield over time. I'm noticing I put a spelling mistake there. Not that important. So I hope you've sort of enjoyed this after-action report. Obviously, this is sort of the last video in the Medusa series, and the last video on the Arachnids patch. So the next stream will be on the modern patch, which is dormitories. It's dormitories. Dangers in dormitories will be the next stream. And before I go ahead and end this one, so that will be, what I'm going to do is I'm going to play a full round of the Banished Vault. So that will take up the Shadow Empire stream slot until the Banished Vault's done. That should get enough time for people watching on Reddit, or people on Reddit to make up their mind. Also, if you want to see a particular type of profile for the next game, feel free to let me know what profiles you want to see. Right now, I think the voting is favoring. Oh, let me move the. Now you can see. Let me know which set of profiles you'd like to see me use. If it ends up being Fist, it'll be basically militant or militia, militia auxiliary, Fist, whatever the other people vote around, right? So if you want to see a particular combo, so if you want to see Autocracy, Enforcement, Fist, feel free to vote that either on Reddit or in the comments to this video. I'm going to do a full playthrough of. Oh, now I'm forgetting the name of the game. Forgetting the name of the game I'm planning on playing. The Banished Vault. I'm planning on doing a full playthrough of the Banished Vault before Shadow Empire comes back, so that should give you enough time to put all the votes in. As that'll probably take 5 or 6 stream slots. Or at least 5 to 6 YouTube slots. It probably will take less time on the stream. Hopefully less time on the stream. So with that, I hope you've all been enjoying this and been enjoying the Shadow Empire content. Hopefully in the next Shadow Empire content we'll actually win. And that's actually quite plausible. One of the things we're going to do is we were playing on the fastest tech speed. I'm at least going to slow it down to normal, if not actually slow. Which should delay the arrival of atomic weapons by 2 to 4 times. And, okay, in that scenario, and I was also playing on dropping the planet size. So almost certainly in that next game, we're not going to hit atomic weapons, we're going to win for the atomic weapons to arrive. Hopefully. So if you've got a preference on what sort of settings you want for the next game, feel free to leave it either in the comments or go onto the Reddit, where I got the Reddit post, and leave it in the Reddit post. And if you have any questions about Shadow Empire, how things work, feel free to ask them in either site. When you see it on, if you're watching on Twitch, when you see it in Twitch, that's when the next stream will be. But that'll be a little bit while out, because, again, the Vault's going to be next. So until then, I wish you all good luck, good tidings. Catch you all in the next video and or stream you watch. Till then, bye for now.